Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Forgotten Weapons Library. I'm Ian, and today the book we're taking a look at is German Pistols and Holsters, 1934 to 1945, by Major Robert Whittington III. This is an older book. It was published originally in 1969, although it has been reprinted much more recently and is thus still readily available today. This is volume 1 of what eventually turned into a 4-volume set on this subject. And volume 1 may not be the most information dense of the books, but it is definitely a really good overview of German pistols that were used during and just prior to World War II. One thing Whittington does that's really nice, that I appreciate seeing, is he divides German pistols into ones actually used by the military, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, as well as pistols used by the various types of German police, and also the pistols that were bought and issued to Nazi party officials. You don't see very much coverage of German police guns, and you see very little coverage of actual Nazi party guns. So, like I said, the book is a bit older. It's kind of dated, but the information in it is still quite good, and I think it really does make an excellent initial overview for someone who is interested in German pistols or wants to get into collecting them. It's not set up as like a coffee table book that you'd flip through and admire the really nice pictures. Instead, it has a lot of tabulated specific data about each type of pistol. How many were made, when they were procured. The sections on the Luger and the Walther P38 in particular, I found really helpful just because of the simple and effective way that he goes through the different markings that should be found on those pistols. The Germans used generally coding systems to try and obscure who was manufacturing various guns and when. And they changed these markings like every 2 years. So you can end up, to the novice, it can be really confusing to take a look at a Walther or a P38 and you see this jumble of numbers, the best example being Luger's marked 42. Well, is 42 a number, or is it a date, or is it, well, it turns out it's actually a factory code. Anyway, Whittington does a good job of explaining in concise and simple detail exactly what markings you should expect to see on the different pistols and why. So let's take a closer look inside, and you can see what I mean by it being not a particularly fancy book. So pretty plain book here, real simplistic basic cover. It does start out with a really nice overview of the German procurement system, how procurement differed between the Army and the Navy and the Luftwaffe and the Nazi Party itself and the police agencies. The German system for all this stuff was a pretty complex one, and it's nice to get this overview. And of course, those of us without perfect vision will really appreciate the huge text that's used throughout here. Now, another section of the introduction covers the specific style of markings that can be found, both military marks and police type marks. Later chapters will reference back to this information, and it's nice to have all of these reproduced. I mentioned the different production codes that were used over time. Well, here is a good exemplary photo of Lugers with a whole progression of the different types of markings that will be found. So this isn't in-depth information to the point of something like Jeffrey Sturgis's Encyclopedia of the Luger, but it's a really good basic overview for someone who doesn't have the background information. There's a similar picture from the P38 section, the different manufacturers and the different time periods, so the different styles of markings that can be found and are all legitimate. And go through the rest of the smaller production German guns. And it's a section on foreign procured guns. So we have everything from the Norwegian 1911s to Spanish Astras and Stars. Another section back here. As I said, the military guns are treated distinctly from the police guns. So the markings you would see on a police Luger are subtly different from what you would see on an Army Luger. And for the collector, it's important to be able to recognize that. So the police guns are in the back. And then, of course, also German Party, NSDAP, the acronym for the Nazi Party, and the various pistols that or purchased and issued by the party. There is a section in the back on holsters, including manufacturer's codes and different styles of holster, and a small miscellaneous section. If this is an area that you're interested in, it's a pretty good book. Definitely I wouldn't buy it looking for a lot of specific detail on any of these particular pistols. I would expect to get a general overview of what was being used at the time. And if that's what you're looking for, this is an excellent solution. So, as I mentioned, this was reprinted in 2012, so it is still currently available and reasonably priced. The other books in the series have not been reprinted, or at least not as recently, and they command much higher prices. They're also a little bit more specific. Volume 3 is just about the best book on German pistol holsters you'll ever find, but it is rather rare. Volume 4 is actually even more esoteric. Volume 4 talks almost order of battle tables about, especially with the civilian and the police units, how many pistols and of what type were issued to each particular unit. So interesting information, but not really casual reading the way that this book can be. So anyway, we'll have a link on Amazon where you can pick up a copy of this if you're interested in it. And thanks for watching. Tune in again to ForgottenWeapons.com.